4, 9, and 0 this weekend. Both these players undefeated. And the ramp deck, seen very little of it. We see, at 8-0, certainly a force here.
Another good thing for Barnett in this matchup is Ulamog is a game-winning play. With the exception of Hangerback Walker, there really aren't any threats in Tumavitch's deck that survive through Ugin. So if he can keep Hangerback Walker contained, should be a very good matchup.
Yeah, so Tyler on the play for game 1. He'll start with his first ramp spell. That's going to be Rattleclaw Mystic. So we go over to Tumavitch, starting out on fetching out a duel here. And he will start on play Warden of the First Tree and then another into play tapped. We have appears to be Cinderglade.
So the first one was a Canopy Vista because he got off of Flooded Strand and used to cast Warden. And the second one, I believe, is Sunken Hollow, but I don't know for sure because I have the art on these cards are all fairly similar to each other. So we'll see.
Yeah,
2 for 2. I was right.
All right, Canopy Vista and Sunken Hollow it is. For Tyler's turn, he's going to cast Map the Wastes. That bolsters onto Rattleclaw Mystic and gets him another land in play. He has Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Remember, that one will count for double once he has enough 7 lands in play. So up to 5 mana sources. 1 to 3 to 5. The payoff cards are Dragonlord Atarka, Ulamog, and Ugin. And for Matt, it's going to be a swing with Warden of the First Tree, a pump to a 3/3. He has Barnett down to 13 and passes the turn. And this is kind of what you were talking about. The Obstinate Aggro is an aggro deck, but right now, on the surface, it does not appear to be fast enough to race what Tyler's going to do.
It's neither fast enough nor disruptive enough for this kind of matchup, at least game 1. I would imagine if Barnett's got any sort of hand that can get to any of his big plays here, he should be good to go.
Yeah, hanging out in Barnett's hand, he does have Hedron Archive and Ugin. So at the very least, he has an Ugin next turn. Might even be able to do something more. We see here he's going to go for Sylvan Scrying. See what he grabs here. Some of the... Does have cards like Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, 4 of, also 4 of Sanctum of Ugin. He'll go ahead and grab the Sanctum.
I like Sylvan Scrying a lot in this deck, too, because you can also get a copy of Blighted Woodland early on in the game. Use that for one of your early developmental turns.
Yeah, there's one of Blighted Woodland in the deck that he has. So he's going to go ahead and Sylvan Scry and then cast Hedron Archive. That means on the untap, he will have 8 mana available to him, 9 with a land drop. That's enough for Ugin and even the next turn for Ulamog.
This is another issue that Obzon decks have. Before in the previous format, you had Thoughtseize and Hero's Downfall. So you could just kind of answer everything. Now Thoughtseize is Despise or Duress, a little bit more situational. Hero's Downfall is now Ruinous Path, which, because it's a sorcery, is probably not powerful enough for these Obzon aggro decks to play. So you're just a lot more vulnerable to Planeswalkers than you used to be. Yeah. Ramping into Ugin is a very good game plan against these decks, and before they could just break it up with Hero's Downfall and Thoughtseize.
You see now a Silkrap takes care of Rattleclaw Mystic, but with the land, Tyler will still have 8 mana on this turn. 1 to 3 to 8 to 9. Really fast development. A second Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Here's 8, and there's Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Yep, 6 lands and a Hedron Archive. Pretty simple for Tyler. And that can plus shoot down the Warden. No, okay, she's going to minus it, exile the Silkrap and the Warden, get his Rattleclaw back.
Yep. And that was, I believe, the 4th turn of the game, 5th turn of the game.
5th turn of the game.
Still pretty fast for an Ugin against Obzon aggro.
Well, not to mention at the pace he's going, he could cast an Ulamog next turn. A 7th land would activate both his shrines. He'd have plenty of mana.
And this assumes that Barnett even needs anything else. The Ugin might just be enough.
Yeah, unless there's a Ruinous Path in Tumavitch's hand, then it won't. And, Ruinous Path not even in the main deck of these Obzon aggro lists anymore. Yeah,
there is no main deck removal, explicit main deck removal for a Planeswalker. This deck's way of answering Planeswalker is by attacking, and Ugin's a tough one to attack in this spot.
Yeah, so here's the play from Tumavitch. It is Gideon, ally of Zendikar. He can make a knight, but boy, this game 1 just seems abysmal for the Obzon side.
Tumavitch was on the draw with a slow start. Barnett had a reasonable hand, and the game has not felt that competitive.
No, we go back over to Barnett. Land 7 will just give him tons of mana. Remember, those shrines count double now. He has 11 available. Radiclaw Mystical Swing, trade with the ally. Now Ugin will -4 to take care of the Gideon. Barnett will pass. So may not have another threat in his hand immediately. He, of course, can crack Hedron Archive, and as soon as he finds one threat, that Sanctum of Ugin will chain him to another threat.
A little surprise there for Barnett to minus and take care of the Gideon. After Tumavitch trades with the token, I think Barnett might be better served just bolting Gideon down. Because it's not like Gideon untaps and attacks for lethal, and then you have an Ugin left in play that's still constricting some of Tumavitch's plays.
Yeah, I think the reason he's doing it is actually Tyler has a second Ugin in hand, so he's going to be pretty aggressive with the first.
That's fine then. That makes sense.
Yeah, when you have, because you have another Ugin. That Ugin is a 7-mana colorless spell, so it sacrifices the Sanctum. He has no shortage of late game huge plays.
Yeah, now he has the Haven of the Spirit Dragon here to recur his Ugin. He has another Ugin in hand. He can actually bolt the Siege Rhino twice.
That's what he's going to do. There's Ugin. He'll play another Ugin, sacrifice the old one, bolt the Siege Rhino again. Sacrificing Sanctum of Ugin with his Walker still on the stack. That's going to go ahead and get Ulamog. That'll be the play next turn. Sanctum of Ugin makes 1 when you cast a colorless spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater. You may sacrifice it and go get a colorless creature. Ulamog being the key one to get here. Now I'll play another Ugin. That'll finish off Siege Rhino. So the board continues to be Tumavitch with no creatures and Barnett with Ugin.
And now Ulamog is coming as well.
And the Ceaseless Hunger about to hit the board. Yeah, in a lot of ways, feeling a lot like a Tron-style deck where once they start playing threats, they just continue to get more and more. We look at this, right? We have a Ugin, Found, Ulamog. Haven is there to get back Ugin. There's so many finishers in Tyler's hand. Just the idea of answering them all from Tumavitch's side seems hopeless.
Now you see, he can Sylvan Scrying here. He can go get Sanctum. That allows Ulamog to chain another Ulamog.
Yeah.
He doesn't even really need the first Ulamog to win this game, so the second one's definitely good enough.
Yeah, gets ready to sacrifice the Sanctum, but instead Matt will go ahead and concede that one. So game 1 over to Tyler Barnett.
And this is the type of matchup that you want as an Eldrazi player. I would imagine the straightforward beatdown decks can be a little bit challenging. It takes you a little while to get your shop set up, but here, as you saw with Tumavitch on the draw, not really doing anything for the first couple turns of the game. Not hard for Barnett to make his land drops, accelerate his mana, and just play stuff that's too powerful for Tumavitch to handle.
Yeah, straightforward game. Barnett up 1-0. We go to the post games. We'll start with the sideboard for Obs on aggro. That value mid-range game plan is going to need some help after out of the sideboard.
2 copies of Duress, 3 copies of Transgress the Mind, a Tassiger, a Sorin Solemn Visitor, a Wingmate Rock, 2 Ultimate Price, 2 Silk Wrap, and 1 Tragic Arrogance, 2 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound. Outside of the discard spells and maybe another copy of Wingmate Rock, there's not a whole lot to like.
Yeah, the discard spells are great. So, I'm excited to have those in the deck. But, yeah, discard is what he's going to need, to be sure. It especially is difficult because you can make him discard the first threat, and that may work, but once he gets one threat down, his threats tend to chain into each other.
Yes.
So you need to stop the first one, but sideboard plan may be able to do that. Looking over on Barnett's side, as a good ramp deck, we look at his sideboard, Jotty Offshoot, Rending Volley, Seismic Rupture, Void Winnower, Whisperwood Elemental. I'm not sure he wants any of these.
I think Void Winnower is okay in this matchup because you have to imagine that it's at least cutting off some of Tumavitch's action, but I can see sideboarding very light, if anything.
Yeah, a lot of these, I know Whisperwood Elemental we saw go in against control decks.
It's possible Winds of Call Sisma is fine for this matchup because Tumavitch's deck is slow and attacks in fairly large chunks. So that could be pretty close to Time Walk in this matchup.
Yeah, it is a fog-style effect. I wonder if it depends on whether or not Tyler thinks the post-board games are going to be him needing another turn and staving off damage, or whether it becomes more of a value game where Tumavitch is, say, Den protecting discard spells.
Yeah, you definitely don't want wins in the games where Tumavitch is overloading on discard spells and breaking you up. But if it is just a pure race of his attacks versus your ability to play something big, then I would want a copy of wins in that sort of game.
Yeah, that seems really good there. But even so, with only 5 discard spells and a set of Den Protectors, the idea that Tumavitch will go on, will have a large chunk of disruption. I mean, it could happen, but he may need some help.
And you can see the bulk of Barnett's sideboard here is dedicated to slowing down very fast decks. Johnny Offshoot, Redding Volley, and Winds. He's trying to clean up those matchups quite a bit. Not nearly as much devoted to mid-range matchups, and that makes sense because they're very good from game 1.
All right, these players getting ready for game 2 here. Those of you following us on twitch.tv, if you want to see the other action from today, this is round 9. Make sure to follow us over at YouTube. This is Star City Games YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/StarCityGames, where you can find the Open Series archives of all the matches today. In addition to that, we feature Versus Series videos featuring some of our top pros explaining matchups of the format. Premium archives from our content. We do unboxings and many other things on the channel. You want to check it out over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Back into the match, though. Matt Tumavitch down a game to Tyler Barnett's green-red Eldrazi deck. Tyler trying to become one of the 9-0 players on the day. As we start out, Tumavitch on the play. He'll start with a land. We trade back. For the record, these are the only 8-0 players, so the winner of this will be the sole 9-0.
Yeah, that's pretty common of tournaments of this size. Usually once we get into the low to mid 500s, we're looking at 1-9-0 at the end of the first day of competition.
Yep. I mean, strictly would be around 500. Just 512 is the bracket way. Now we have some buys, so that math's a little fuzzy, but yeah, mid 500s, usually about 1 player. Turn 2 will be Hangerback Walker from Tumavitch.
I believe that's off of a Smoldering Marsh.
And a Forest.
Yeah, I'm just trying to identify the expedition.
All right, well, for Tyler, it's going to be Rattleclaw Mystic. And this is one of the things, Hangerback Walker, a great card, but if I'm the ramp player, I'm not concerned about that guy too much.
It is something that lives past Ugin, and that's nice, but it is so slow.
Look at this. It is a duress out of Tumavitch. We see it. The things it can take, there's a Sylvan Scrying and an Explosive Vegetation. Vegetation, a pretty good hit. Other cards in Tyler's hand, he has a Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, he has a Haven of the Spirit Dragon, and he has one more land to go with it. But the double ramp spells Explosive Vegetation, and that's the one that Tumavitch is going to take.
Yeah, he has to constrict Barnett's mana. He can't do it over the long term. Eventually, Barnett's going to be able to get his lands into play, but he's got to make some effort to keep Barnett from going from 4 to 6 to 8 to Ugin or Ulamog.
Shrine of the Forsaken Gods from Tyler. We'll see if he goes for that Hangerback Walker now. On 4 mana, he could make it a 2-2 and kind of one-up the Hangerback Walker of Tumavitch. And that's what he'll do. It's 2-2 Hangerback. Now Tumavitch's is a 2-2. So we get into the Hangerback fight.
And Tumavitch has brought in, it looks like his sideboarded copy of Tassiger the Golden Fang. Not a huge fan of it in this matchup. Barnett doesn't play a lot of stuff early, so it's hard for Tumavitch to fill up his graveyard with removal spells. And Tassiger sitting back and drawing cards is also low impact here. Barnett invalidates everything that Tumavitch does given enough time.
Yeah, it's not great here. Now, that said, there are a lot of slow reactive cards that the Abzan aggro deck has in its main, so it's possible that this is kind of what he has to have. Nonetheless, his turn 4 play is going to be Gideon, ally of Zendikar. That'll make a 2-2, which may serve well here.
It's not bad, but these are, again, slow threats that take a little bit of time to really maximize their power, and Barnett's top end invalidates all this stuff.
Play from Barnett is land plus Sylvan Scrying. Looks like he'll get another Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. He has since, in the meantime, picked up an Ugin, so when he gets to enough mana, he will have a finisher.
He also has Dragonlord Atarka in hand, as we know from the earlier duress.
Right, does have a target. That one 2 turns away at the moment. But remember, as soon as he hits land 7, all those shrines start counting double. So the jump from, say, 6 mana to 10 mana is almost instant for Tyler. So we go back over to Tumavitch. Last turn he played a Gideon and made a 2-2, so now he has a 2-2 Ally Knight and a 2-2 Hangerback in play. Hasn't dealt any damage to Barnett yet. Barnett with a Hangerback Walker and Rattleclaw on the blocks.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Tumavitch has gone Duress, Hangerback Walker, Gideon. I still don't even know if he's in a position to attack this turn. I guess he can plus Gideon and make an Alpha Strike this turn, or at least get in with Gideon, but Barnett's still at 20. It's taken Tumavitch to the 5th turn of the game to be able to attack.
Yeah, and that's what he's going to do. So Barnett will drop to 15 on the attack. Some follow-ups for Tumavitch. He has a Tastiger and a Siege Rhino in hand.
And that's also a very bad sign for Tumavitch. Barnett had the option there of block with Hangerback Walker, make it a 3-3, and make 3 Thopters. That's a pretty good chump block. He turned it down. Feels like he can do better than that.
Real sign of confidence from Barnett if he wants to just wait and end-step pump the Hangerback Walker. And that's what he'll do. So Barnett down to 12 off that Siege Rhino. He'll draw. His draw for turn, I believe, was Hedron Archive. That will speed his ramp up a turn. See, the other shrine that he searched for last turn was the land drop. And now gets to go for the archive. Even if it doesn't, it's still the same turn for a Tarka, but what this does mean is if he makes a Tarka next turn, he can have Rattleclaw Mystic back as a blocker just in case Tumavitch is close to a lethal alpha.
Yep.
And then, of course, the following turn, when he plays land 7, he'll have access to whatever finisher he has in his hand. And step Tumavitch will pump his hanger back to a 3-3.
I expect this turn we're going to see the chump block with Hangerback Walker from Barnett. If he didn't chump block last turn, it's because he wanted to get to the 4th Thopter.
Yeah, he wanted one more. That makes sense. Relook at Tumavitch now, and I like, this is a Transgress the Mind from Matt Tumavitch. What I've really liked about this is that he's had this Transgress the entire time. I've loved the patience that he's shown in casting it.
Has not just, fired it off just because he had some mana left over. He's developing his board first. He wants to give Barnett as many looks as possible at something big, and instead of getting the Dragon Lord Atarka, he gets the more powerful Ugin for his trouble.
Of note that is exiled. With Hedron Archive and Haven of the Spirit Dragon in play, it's important that the Ugin's exiled here too.
Yep. And most Devoid spells, possibly all Devoid spells that remove something, they're all exiled for processor benefits.
Yeah, what's the flavor of the Eldrazi? Eldrazi don't just kill you, you cease to exist. Tumavitch activates Gideon again, makes it a 5-5. Here comes Hangerback, here comes Rhino, here comes Gideon. It's 12 points of damage coming in. Barnett's at 12, so blocking will be in order. Interesting to see whether or not Barnett figures he has to block with Rattleclaw as well as Hangerback. We'll be close here. The worry is that if he blocks Hangerback Walker on Tumavitch's side, then suddenly next turn Tumavitch can make an emblem, have an army of 2/2 flyers, and that's bad news.
Well, he can kind of manage it this way where he will make it a 4-4 here, allow the Hangerback Walker to break open, play Dragon Lord Atarka, take care of the Knight and the Thopters that are left over, and have a pretty stable presence on the ground.
So this is interesting. So Barnett pumped his Hangerback before damage here, so his Hangerback won the fight, meaning Barnett doesn't have a lot of Thopters to block with next turn. He just has the one Hangerback.
Well, I don't know if he needs Thopters to block with next turn. What are Tumavitch's attacks? Assume that Barnett goes, Dragon Lord Atarka, take care of your 3 Thopters and your token. What are the attacks next turn? If he fires up everything and attacks, Barnett goes Dragon Lord Atarka in front of Siege Rhino, Hangerback Walker in front of Gideon. Now I have 4 Thopters.
Okay.
That's a really good setup.
Tassiger, the last card in Tumavitch's hand, he'll pass the turn. So Barnett down at 8, facing a huge board on Tumavitch's side, but now the finishers will start to happen. We'll see just what Barnett has. Draw for the turn was Map the Wastes. That's no good here. He does have, however, Sanctum of Ugin. He'll play that. Haven. Tapping out here. Remember those, it counts double for the Hedron Archive is for 2. Here's Dragon Lord Atarka. That's for 7. He has 1 mana left. See if he cracks. I don't think he's going to crack Sanctum of Ugin here just yet. Yeah, he does not. It takes, so as you mentioned, takes care of the 3 Thopter tokens and the Knight. So Tumavitch's board is Gideon, Tassiger, and Siege Rhino against Barnett's board of Hangerback, Atarka, and 8 life.
And there, Tumavitch can fire up an attack, but on the table, he doesn't have an attack to make.
But what did he draw? And that's going to matter so much here. Is this the card he drew, or is it a Tassiger activation? It's a Tasker activation. Mills Gideon and land. And Tyler will give him the Gideon. It looks like Matt's draw for the turn was a Flooded Strand.
Yeah, really wanted Obzon Charm or some other removal spell there because the attack's lethal.
Land for turn. Tyler working with perfect information here. What Tumavitch can do is he wants to set up a board that if Tyler goes for an attack with a Tarka on Gideon, he wants the swing back to be lethal.
Yes.
So makes a knight and says go. Does this mean if he makes next turn, if he makes an emblem, perhaps this is lethal?
Well, if he makes an emblem and then plays the Gideon doesn't contribute to lethal that turn because the best thing you can do for immediate damage is another emblem, and he's got that only means the knight gets through for 4 points of damage.
And the draw from Tyler, not good enough this turn, but next turn, boy, will it be good. It was a copy of Ulamog's The Ceaseless Hunger. Now, right now, he does not have enough mana. He only has 8, but he does have Map the Wastes, and this will not just put one land into play, but it'll activate both shrines. So this doesn't ramp 1, it ramps 3. Tyler will have 11 mana available next turn.
So Tyler just really needs to hold off for one more turn.
I think so, right?
He should be in very good position.
Yeah, he'll have enough mana to cast Ulamog next turn, sacrifice Sanctum Ugin, and get any threat in his deck. So 2 blockers in play, he'll pass back at 8 life.
But a removal spell here is still good for Tumavitch. It is lethal if he can find a piece of removal for Dragonlord Atarka.
Draws for turn. Is it a kill spell? It's a land. Land number 8. He has another Gideon in play. 2 emblems from the Gideons isn't going to do enough.
You can see the thumbs up there from Barnett. That's a big whiff. He knows that he's beat by any sort of removal spell here.
It's just all lands in Tumavitch's graveyard.
Yeah, he delved away, you know, try to, with the Tassiger, try to make sure that he had as many looks as possible for removal spells.
So with the miss, no choice but to just make another knight for Tumavitch. Now he can go for another Gideon. Now remember, last time, Tumavitch does not know that Tyler drew an Ulamog last turn.
Correct.
So in his spot, he's more safe than he actually is. And here we go. With 7 lands, those count double. So it's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. Here's Ulamog, cracking Sanctum of Ugin.
And I think that the #1 priority here for Barnett is get Tassiger off the table. Do not allow Tumavitch as many draws as possible for spot removal spells or running Siege Rhinos or something to get him out from this spot.
It's the looping Ulamogs you talked about. This Ulamog will exile Tassiger and Gideon. Now it's in play. He has 1 mana up. Found another copy of Ulamog. He'll pass the turn. Now, he can't actually cast it next turn unless he draws a land because his Shrine of the Forsaken Gods were turned off after sacrificing Sanctum. But still looks like a great spot for Barnett. Shambling Vent for Tumavitch. He'll pass. Hangerback's an 8/8. Draw. If it's a land, we're going to see another Ulamog. And what a land it is. Shrine of the Forsaken Gods is the play. Tyler, here's a swing. Exiles 20 cards off Tumavitch's deck.
And most likely the attack from Ulamog next turn will just be the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Will be the rest of the deck. Not to mention that he gets to go ahead and cast that Ulamog.
Yeah, Tumavitch has activated Tassiger several times and has used fetch lands, so he might be below 20 as we speak.
Barnett surveying the cards that were exiled by Ulamog. An ally jumps in front of Ulamog as a chump block. Now we go to post-combat, however. And no cast from Tyler.
I guess he feels fairly safe against no hand.
Fair enough.
Don't blame him.
No need to. He'll pass. We go back to Tyler. Makes a 9/9 Hangerback Walker. And that will be the extension of the hand from Matt Tumavitch. So there you have it. In 2 games, Tyler Barnett and Green Red Eldrazi. He is your undefeated player here on day 1 from Philadelphia. A perfect 9-0 with the ramp deck.